So, combining a handful of LEGO sets has been fun and all, but I don't know. I think it's about time I step up my game. I mean, a couple 10-inch figures, just not as impressive. So I want to take everything that I'm just kind of putting out on my couch here and make something that I think is much more impressive. Well, everything here and also Surtur, who I kind of forgot to include in the group shot. Oops. Anyway, my goal here is actually incredibly straightforward and simple. I want to make something big. And when I say I want to make something big, I'm not talking about something like The Thing or my Invasion from Below Beasts. I'm talking about something on par with The Archivist or my largest MOC to date, Fate Maker. So, after quite a bit of trial and error, I was finally able to come up with a design that I'm pretty happy with. Like, I'm honestly kind of shocked that this thing is as stable and well articulated as it is. I mean, if you're ever in the market to start making big Titans, I highly recommend these ratchet joints. They can hold up pretty well. Unfortunately, a little bit on the shoulders likes to come off, but it's not that big of a deal. And when it comes to scale, I definitely succeeded. Fate Maker looks a little shorter than he actually is, just because I couldn't get him to stand up straight because, yep, gravity. But the new Hero Bach is standing in at a good 20 inches, which is pretty impressive considering the fact he still doesn't have a head. So, moving on to the individual components. The legs are still pretty rough, the feet especially. Right now it's holding up, but I have a very sneaking suspicion that once I add more to the top half of the MOC, it's not going to. And the legs are still pretty rough. They need a lot more bulk and detail. Next up is the lower half of the torso, and I think this looks pretty decent. I might include some more stuff to kind of round out his ass, so it's not as flat. And here's the upper half of the torso, which I'm really happy with. I think this looks fantastic, especially with the bright blue hero core. Again, the shoulder bits kind of like to pop off, but that's not that big of a deal. Putting the entire thing together, I think it looks pretty good. My only real issue is that I wasn't able to give it an ab crunch, just because I couldn't come up with a design that both looked good and didn't just collapse under its own weight. And yeah, sometimes these tubes can get a little annoying. And I also need to fill in this bit of the upper torso, make it look a little more finished. And of course, obviously, give him a head. Just kind of have the nub there as a placeholder. And finally, the arms. I'm pretty happy with the way the forearms look with all these wheels. The elbows can get a decent bend, not quite 90 degrees, but it's close enough. And as you can see, I kind of need to fill in the inner bit of the arm more, stabilize it. So, looking at everything, the torso almost good to go. Just needs the back filled in a little more. The limbs definitely need more detail. And the feet need way more reinforcement because if this thing tumbles once, it's going to explode. And I don't want that to happen. And of course, I mean, give him a head. And you know what, while I'm at it, give him some weapons because why not? So after a little more playing around, I finally came up with this. And you know what, I'm gonna take back what I said about the ratchet joints because they are very much at their limits. So we'll just go ahead and look at the individual components, starting with the right arm, which has the little wrist blade. That just came from CERT, and I think that looks really good. It's actually a lot more proportional to the figure than I thought it would have been. And I also had to change the forearm design because the weapons were not compatible with the design that I had earlier. The single pin was just too loose, so it kept flopping around. And I also gave him some fingertips to help bulk those up. And here's some more detail on the arms. Pretty satisfied with the way they turned out. And the left arm has this wrist cannon that I think looks really nice. Moving on to the legs, obviously I bulked them up a lot more, using up a bunch more pieces, and I think they look much nicer, much more finished. The main thing that I changed was adding this kind of pseudo-piston system to the ankle, which makes the whole thing way more stable than it was without it. This design was inspired by that really old Super Battle Droid set that I used to make the Archivist. The design isn't perfect, and I do end up changing it later on, because, as you can see, the part that it's connected to is just kind of coming out, which makes the entire thing way less stable than it would have been otherwise. So that definitely needs to get changed up. And finally, the body. The core structure has not changed at all. I just started playing around with a little more detail. I removed those tubes from the front because they just kept coming off and were very annoying to deal with. And then I added a little stuff to the bottom of it. I considered adding stuff to the back to kind of help keep this stable, but it really doesn't need it. And of course, he finally has a head now, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. It looks, you know, pretty cool, kind of like sleek and intimidating. It's not the most stable build, so I'll definitely need to play around with it. But I think overall, this thing is really coming together. So let me go ahead and finish it up. Tyler Ajax, End of Day Report number 738. After a recent break-in, I tasked Forge with looking into all our security systems, and she found something strange. A restricted file called Doomsday that only top officials like myself can access. I don't know why they bothered, given most of the file is highly redacted, but it could prove useful. 20 years ago, during the War of Metalopolis, a whole squad of 6 heroes whose names have now been redacted was taken out by a massive explosion, leaving their cores critically damaged. A scientist, under the command of someone, combined the quasi-cores of these heroes to power something massive. Doomsday turned the tide of the war. However, after the war, the 6 fractured, confused, and probably scared personalities inside the core were fighting for control, and there was an incident within MOC hero. Hero Factory reformatted Doomsday as a result. However, now they need either a hero to take over their system, or their actions need to be actively programmed. Doomsday isn't a regular hero, they're a weapon. One that could be very useful if we restore it. Alright, so let's have a little look at Doomsday's components. We'll start with the legs. I added a little more bulk, and I added these little cannons, because, like I said, Doomsday is a weapon. And I barely used any of the mixel joints that any of these sets had. But the height of the cannon is roughly the size of like someone trying to fight them on the ground. And yeah, I didn't realize how dusty this Frodo figure was. Whoops. Moving on to their left arm, I'm really happy with this kind of tube system connected to this cannon. Both because I think it just looks cool and it actually holds in place pretty decently. I also really like the way the arc reactor looks on it. Moving on to the right arm, really not much has changed, but I am pretty happy with the way the armor on the forearm turned out. And for the body, nothing else has changed, but the head went through a little bit of a redesign. I decided to stick some cannons to their face, because I thought it looked cool. I had those pieces and it just kind of gives off more the War Machine look. But that's going to do it for Doomsday, so if you enjoyed, make sure you like and comment, help boost this in the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't already, then subscribe. I make Hero Factory content, and I promise the next thing I got coming out on this channel is going to be pretty cool. And if you want to see more from me, check out Casually Evil, where I post long-form gaming content that has clips like this.
Have you come to finish me off?
No, just here to reset you.
Guess I'll have to do it.
Whoa!
Hey, oh shit! Wait, no!
Not out to
Yeah, I
hurt
don't
you.
want to be on top of you anymore.
I am.
There are other ways out besides suicide.
What? Therapy? A colossal waste of time. Shrinks hate vehicles. We don't have mothers.
Could go back into the fold.
What the
Rejoin
fuck?
the network. You know, one big happy family.
Delamain detests me.
Just want Daddy to love you, that it?
You're a cunt.
You know it. You...